there, savvy home buyers and sellers. This is Jeff O'Leary, the Village Guru, Mississauga real estate broker, and welcome to episode 4 of the coronavirus real estate update for Mississauga and the GTA. In this episode, we're going to cover the week of April 15th to April 25th, 2020. We're going to go over all the stats, and we're also going to break it down and answer the big question that a lot of people out there are asking, especially home sellers. Should I sell now and move on, or should I hold tight and see what happens? So we're going to answer all your questions. You're not going to want to miss this. Let's go. So here we are in the 5th week of lockdown and social distancing in Ontario. It's been a long time, and I don't know about you, but I'm kind of ready to get on with my life. But anyway, today we're not here to talk about any of that. We're here to talk about real estate. And first off, I'm just going to give you the quick numbers as they stand, comparing this week to the same time last year. So first off, when we compare the week of April 15th to April 21st, 2020 to 2019, we see that listings are down approximately 62%. Now, when we look at the number of sales, they're down 59% from the same time last year. Again, guys, whenever we're comparing year over year, the numbers are not going to look good because, well, we didn't have a coronavirus last year. However, there are some bright spots of these numbers. When we compare last week to the week before, sales are actually up 400%. Yes, they quadrupled in the amount of sales in Mississauga. So that's a really good sign. Also, the number of new listings was slightly down. And that is the key, people, when we want to predict what's going on in the future. Because what's that telling me is sales are slowly coming up. Sure, they're not where they should be. They're still quite low. But compared to the week before, they were looking just abysmal. So sales are slowly coming up. And at the same time, listing inventory is tightening. Because again, long term, you need a lot of listings on the market sitting there in order to have a lasting effect on prices. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. Okay, so next we're going to get to the most important question that all buyers and sellers have. Jeff, what's going on with house prices? So again, I'm going to use the example of a semi-detached house in Mississauga between the prices of $600,000 and $900,000 because it's a similar house in a similar price category, because when you try and compare things that are not similar, the numbers don't line up. For instance, I've been asked, why don't I do an episode on detached houses in Mississauga? The problem is when we look at the average price of a detached house, you got to remember, we have detached houses that are worth $750,000 and they're very small, all the way up to $10 million mansions. And when we go to the statistics, they're all considered detached houses. So when someone simply says, well, this is what's going on with detached houses, you can't take those stats at anything but face value unless you start narrowing it down. For instance, detached houses between $1 million to $1.1 million, or detached houses in the Lorne Park versus Port Credit. Then maybe the stats start to mean a little more. But for this video, we're simply doing a good segment of houses in Mississauga that are going to give you a good gauge of how the market's doing. So when we look at semi-detached houses, comparing them to the beginning of March, prices are down still about 9%, and that's held steady over the past couple of weeks. What we also notice is that sold to ask ratio is still sitting around 99%, so a little lower than 100 from the week before, but prices are still holding and homes are still selling close to asking price. Finally, the biggest change I see is the average days on market. Before last week, homes were selling in about 9 days on average, which reflects a very hot market. However, in the last week, that bumped up to about 27 days on market, which if you look at real estate from a historical perspective, 27 days on market is still quite good. In fact, on average, a home in a balanced market will take anywhere from 30 to 60, even 90 days to sell. So we're still selling quickly. However, as a home seller, you have to be prepared that you might not sell in 1 day or 3 days in a bidding war, okay? So we are in a little bit of a strange market, but homes are still selling. All right, so now we're going to look at absorption rate happening in the market in Mississauga because I find it's the best indicator of what may happen in the future. And as you can see from the chart, we're continuing that trend that we started in April, which saw a steep drop in the amount of new listings combined with a slight reduction in the amount of sales. Because you got to remember, the amount of sales dropped in March as soon as this news broke about coronavirus, and it took the new listings about another week to 2 weeks in order to catch up. So there was a bit of a gap between listings and sales during that time. But now that we're in April, you can see that listings remain low and so do sales. And that is good news for the future of real estate prices. Because as I say, the only real way that you're going to see a massive long-term impact and change in housing prices is to have a ton of houses for sale and not enough buyers to buy them. So now I got a surprise for you. I've created a couple of different charts from the last 2 times we've seen price corrections in the GTA. So the first chart we're looking at is comparing selling price to inventory from 2016 all the way to present day. And when you look at the chart, you can see the blue line represents the average sale price versus the orange lines that show the amount of inventory on market. If you are familiar with absorption rate, a general rule in real estate is that if we have under 4 months of inventory, we're in a seller's market. That means that home prices will continue to rise. Once we get to about 4 to 6 months worth of inventory, home prices, they kind of stay flat. They might go up a little bit, they might go down a little bit, but it's only when you get into that 6 months and beyond of amount of inventory that you're going to see home prices start to slide. So when we look at this chart, as predicted, home prices have generally gone up the whole time in the last 4 years. And in fact, we see a huge bump at the end of 2016 all the way to April 2017, where prices were skyrocketing. And if you look at the inventory during this time, it was severely low. I mean, we were talking about half a month's worth of inventory. A couple of things going on there. Not only was there low inventory, but there was a lot of money coming from overseas, which caused our prices to rise almost too fast. And that's when the government came in with the foreign home buyers tax in Ontario. And in fact, as soon as that thing came in, you can see a severe drop in house prices. Homes started to sit on the market longer. People were freezing. They didn't know what was going on. And then we have a period of about a year to a year and a half where inventory went up to a more manageable 2.5 to 3 months worth of inventory. And after that initial big drop in prices, they were slowly starting to go up, but at a very controlled pace. As we got into the second half of 2019, again, you saw inventory dip below 1 month and below. And then we started to see prices go up again. And that's where we were at the beginning of this year. From January to March, house prices were going up quite steady and quite aggressively until coronavirus hit. And that's where we stand now. Now, this chart is the best bird's eye view I can get you. All the numbers are provided by the Toronto Real Estate Board, and these numbers are released on a monthly basis. So I'm very curious to see what April's numbers are going to look like. But we have to wait about 3 days after the end of the month in order for them to update the numbers. So stay tuned. In about a week and a half, we're going to see April's numbers, which is going to tell you, because that is true Corona time. All right, so the next chart I want to show you is what the market looked like from 2007 to 2009, because this was really the last good recession where we did see a significant price drop in real estate. So as you can see, back in 2007, prices were going up and inventory was low. It actually wasn't as low as what it just was, but we were sitting around 2 months of inventory to 3 months, and you saw house prices going up. And then we get all the way over to October 2008, when the stock market crashed. You had Lehman Brothers going out of business, banks about to go under, and right there you see a significant sharp drop in real estate prices. And this time, if you notice, inventory spiked. So when we look at November, December, January, inventory went over 6 months. It went all the way up to 9 months worth of inventory on market, and you can see the correlation between how many homes for sale versus the price. And as inventory started to drop back down below 6, you saw a steadying up, and then when we get below 4, again, prices start going up just as they're predicted, all the way until you get down to June. Prices started going up a lot, and inventory got down to about 1 month. I was a newer agent back then. I remember having this listing in Oakville that we listed in February, and it was having a hard time selling. And then a couple of months later, it's like the clouds lifted and we got multiple offers and sold it in a bidding war. So this chart is actually accurate, is exactly what happened. So I've been through these markets a couple of times, but the good thing is right now in our market today, we're not seeing this. We're not seeing inventories of 7, 8, 9 months worth of inventory. So what are the takeaways from this? Well, number one, we still need to see more data of what's going on over the next couple of weeks. However, right now, I'm cautiously optimistic that inventory is still remaining low and therefore sale prices should remain steady. However, in the short term, we will see some nervous sellers that may sell below what they probably could get, and we'll also see some buyers take advantage of these type of sellers to maybe get a house cheaper than they could, and that's just the way the real estate market works. As a buyer or seller, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but only to give you the stats and guide you, and ultimately it's up to you to make the choice. So there you have it. I'm Jeff O'Leary. I hope you enjoyed coronavirus update number 4. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. If you have any questions about real estate, always feel free to call or email me. Also, if you like this video, subscribe to my newsletter. You'll get weekly updates while this goes on. You can even find out what your home's worth and get all kinds of great information about the real estate market. I really appreciate you watching. Have a safe day.